Hello there everyone, welcome back, and today we're going to be taking a look at this. Now this is the Nerf Elite 2.0 Motoblitz, and this is probably the most exciting release that Nerf Elite 2.0 has had so far. Now, we'll get into the reason for that, but first we'll take an overview of this blaster itself. So this is a flywheel blaster, and in the same way that the Rayven was, it's a bullpup, which means that the magazine is located behind the trigger well, as opposed to in front like with most conventional blasters. And in the real steel world of actual firearms, the advantage of this is that you get the same overall barrel length in exchange for a shorter overall length. Though this not being a compression barrel, there's not really that much of an advantage to it. But it would be cool if Dart Zone were to go out and make some sort of compression barrel pro line blaster that was a bullpup, but I digress. Back to the blaster itself, so you can clearly see bullpup. It's a bullpup flywheel, and then it has a couple tack rails. There's one here. If you flip it over, one here, and evidently there's no paint on this side because it's Hasbro. They don't do more than they have to. And tack rail up here, and kind of a scope. Let's see. Let's try and angle that. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of pretty flush against the blaster itself, so it's kind of hard to, have to do that, which is not great, but, you know. And that aside, we'll get to the elephant in the room, and this. Now this is a masterkey, and for those of you who are modders in the hobby, you already know what this is. You don't need me to explain it to you, but for those of you who don't know what this is, it's essentially a second blaster, which you can see here that there's 6 barrels here, and you might be asking where the trigger is, but the trigger's actually here. It's also here for ambidextrous purposes, and it's actually an air tank, so the whole point is that you prime it up like this, and then you have to pull a bunch of times before there's an... yeah. I don't know how well that noise is going to show on YouTube, but there's a small squeak when there's a overpressure release valve that kicks in. So that's how you know that you're at full capacity for the air tank, and it means that when you're ready to fire, you just press either this button on this side or the corresponding button on this side, and it launches all 6 darts all at the same time. Which means that, in effect, you have a 2-in-1 blaster, which is pretty similar to, I believe is the Mediator, wherever as blaster that came out several years ago. But the advantage of this is that it's sort of all-in-one package, which means that there's no attachments that are a bit flimsy, or no separate pieces that you have to have. It's just all-in-one, and that combined with the bullpup nature of it makes for not necessarily a compact blaster, but not as unwieldy as you might think if, for instance, you had a rapid strike with a masterkey on the front of it, which would be a bit ridiculous, to be honest. But that aside, the interesting aspect of that is that masterkey type blasters where, for instance, you might have a Strife and then, let's say, a Mega Magnus on the front there. That has been something that a lot of modders have had for several years now, but this is the first time that Nerf has had it on store shelves. And although they do have that, the Alien Pulse blaster thing, that's a Nerf limited thing. It's also quite a bit more expensive, and this is actually on store shelves. I picked this up at Target, so it is available. It is on store shelves, and I don't recall the exact price, but it'll be in the link down below. It's not too expensive though. I believe it was less than $50. And so yeah, so that's basic overview, and that is why it's such an interesting blaster, because of the fact that it's a sort of blaster that a lot of modders have been making for years now, but it's actually something that's on store shelves that you can actually pick up, made by Nerf. And despite the fact that it's a Elite 2.0 blaster, it does actually have screws. So if you take a look there are screws indeed, and if I recall correct, and from what I've seen, it is possible to take it apart. I have not done that personally, but I believe it is possible. And, oh, there's also a jam door here on the side here. It's the same color, so it's kind of hard to see, but there you go. So we'll just pop it back in so it can fire. And yeah, so tack rails, bullpup design, master key. Not a whole lot else left to go over with the overview, so let's get to firing. Now, in terms of performance, it's probably pretty similar to the Rayven. And I have the included Elite 2.0 darts loaded up with alternating colors. This is a 10-round mag, so that's that done with. And the mag release here is actually this paddle here, which I usually strike with my thumb, so I can pull out like that. And it's actually pretty good. It's a lot better than a lot of the Nerf Elite 2.0 mag releases, or yeah, the mag releases are in the trigger well, which can be kind of uncomfortable. So that's cool, and also the rev switch, unlike some of the new Ultra Blasters, is actually usable. And yeah, so it's of a decent size and nothing too, well, ergonomics are pretty decent, nothing too notable about that, but the trigger well and everything not being notable is better than it being bad. So yeah, let's go ahead and fire the master key, shall we? Yeah, not exactly the most accurate thing in the world, but if you have 6 rounds are firing all at once, accuracy is not exactly the point of it. But yeah, so that's the firing demo over. So overall, you can see that in terms of the base blaster, it's just Rayven, or perhaps one that's slightly upgraded with a slightly better linkage in terms of the trigger to the mag, because one of the disadvantages of the Rayven compared to the Strife from back in the day is that, well, the fact of the matter is that when the mag's all the way back here and trigger's all the way up here, there's a bit more of a delay, because there's a sort of a linkage that goes from here to back here for everything to work. But that seems to have been at least modified or updated a little bit, so that's good. And so you have that as your main blaster, and of course you can put attachments on it. If you want to, you can put another scope or laser or something on the side here, or something on the side there. And if you're in a desperate situation, if you're in close quarters, you can always use the master key, and I would just have the air tank pumped up if you're in a battle, so you can just use it if you have to and just have it there in case you don't. And yeah, it takes 4 AA batteries, which is, I believe, the same as the Strife and Rayven, so nothing new there. And it is an interesting blaster in terms of the color scheme. I believe I said in the Phoenix video that I was never the biggest fan of the teal-colored color scheme here, and though I do like the white, is kind of an interesting design choice to have it be so stark of a contrast. If I were Nerf, I would have had something that's a little more, I don't know, something that's not quite as contrasting in terms of colors. Maybe have it all be one color, or have the 2 colors be more consistent or more similar. So, but that aside, and of course you can always paint these blasters, so that there's no rule that's against that. And that aside, there's also some modability that you can have with this. There's various tutorials and such on YouTube, which I'm not really kind of am, but not really. Not really a modder who does modding tutorials, but there are those that are out there, and there's different ways to increase the performance of the air tank of the secondary blaster that's here, so that's quite cool. And of course, there's always the ways if you want to improve the performance of the main blaster. And overall, it's a very good blaster, and although the big advantage of this compared to any of the other master keys that are out there is that this is available off the store shelves, as opposed to a situation where you might have to make it yourself, which might be, well, a bit more expensive, but also you need to have the know-how to actually to do that. So it is quite cool, and it's the first time that you can get one of these that's on store shelves, and you don't have to mod it or pay a extraordinary amount of money like you would have for the Aliens Pulse Blaster. So it's not a whole lot else left to go over. It's a very good blaster, and I highly recommend it. Though, if I were you, I might paint it because this isn't my favorite color scheme in the world. It's not terrible, but could be better. And that aside, it's a pretty good blaster, and that's about it for today. So I hope you have a good day, everybody.